Welcome back, travelers, to Legendary Lore, where we will be talking about the next portion of the story time of Strixhaven. When we last left off our characters, Will and Rowan were, of course, very upset with each other and their existence. Liliana was completely aware of the fact the Oriq were probably bad dudes, and Kasmina, which is what this particular story is named after as far as our episode goes, she's doing her thing too. She's keeping surveillance. So let's see how that all pans out, shall we? So Will is hard at work trying to solve one of Professor Onyx's equations, exams, question, riddle things. And he cannot crack it. He just keeps looking at it and nothing's clicking. And then Rowan comes in and she's all happy and she's smiling and she comes into her room and Will's like, where have you been? Rowan immediately, it's her smile starts to fade because now she's talking to Will, and Will's like, did you do your assignment? And she's like, yeah, I did that. And he goes, well, did you do this? And she's like, yeah, sure. Well, did you study for the exam? Are you ready for the end of the week when Professor Onyx's exams are supposed to be notoriously difficult? And she's like, what are you talking about? And he goes, the exam. It's in 2 days. And she's like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll get it, don't worry about it. And he's like, you're not
why
really
are they getting exams from Professor Onyx?
You'll get, as a student, multiple professors for different subjects. It's just that whatever you're working on as your primary thing is where the majority of your classes will be. For instance, I was a psychology/film and digital media major. I still took biology courses. Well, actually, I didn't have to take a biology course because I already had my AP credit without having to take the class, but that's beside the point. I'm just really good at organs. Rowan is basically being lectured by Will. She tells him just that. She goes, I have enough lectures without you telling me what I need to do. And she gets really upset. So upset that electricity starts to coil between the strands of hair on her head. And he's like, Rowan. She kind of, first she's angry, then she's confused, then she's embarrassed, and then the sparks go away. Because she did not intend to get that threatening with her brother. She just has that much untamed power inside of her. He asks her if she's okay. She says, I'm fine. And she's gone. 2 days go by. And obviously this is right before the Professor Onyx assignment is going to be due. Will is now in the biblioplex. And Quint is like, hey, buddy, have you tried consulting Ilsamar's? And then Will just pulls out the book and he's like, yes, the treatise on corporeal manipulation. You already are doing that. Thank you for trying at least. And he has no idea how to solve this riddle. As this is happening, Quint is of course doing his own research on his own book. And he comes to, he's comparing two books, trying to see how they differ on the history of things, right?
Yeah.
And he says, there's just no mistaking this arcane signal. This is astounding. It means the histories of the kingdoms below had to be rewritten from scratch, or at the very least reordered to account for. And then he accidentally knocks over his tea. Quint absolutely ruins the books in front of him. And Will's like, did you really? And Quint's like, don't worry, she's not going to find out. And he goes, you can't lift it. You'll take the ink out with it, because obviously ink and tea are both liquid based. And he goes, but if I call like to like, and Quint's finger glows, he dips it in the teacup, and then he touches the book, and the spilled tea rises out in small droplets from the page and goes back into the cup. And then he drinks the tea. There's always a spell. I just wish I had that kind of thing. I have tea right here. If I were to spill this tea on any of the equipment around me, I'd be crying in a fetal position on the ground.
In all fairness, that's different from having it in a book. You already shorted any chips in your motherboard.
That is true. My mom is short. So after that whole nice little interaction, Will's like, you know what? I need a walk. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to go find Rowan. So Will goes to the bow's end because he's tired. He needs to relax, basically. He knows he can't solve it if he's just frustrating himself. So he goes to the bow's end. And when he's there, he sees Rowan and her friends. And he's like, oh, hey guys, did you know that Rowan almost flunked? How weird is that? Rowan's like, what are you doing here? Leave me alone. He's like, you could have asked for my help. I would have happily helped you. I did exceptional. We're supposed to be like a team or a unit. And she's like, forget you.
Or an absolute unit.
Yeah, getting in an argument, and Rowan doesn't want to do it in front of her friends, and she's afraid that like they're going to get into a brawl and stuff, and they just want to mess up stuff. So she just gets up and she leaves. And Rowan and Will, they're walking and they're kind of upset at each other, right? And he goes, Rowan, we're here to learn better control of our powers, not to get worse. And we're definitely not here to just have fun. We're Kenriths. That still means something here. She goes, actually, Will, it doesn't. Nobody here's even heard of Eldraine. I'm not here to represent anybody or anything but myself. And Will tells her, and you say you don't want to be like our birth mother. Now, Joe, do you know who their birth mother is?
No.
She is the Wicked Witch of Eldraine. She's
The light
literally...
creature? Or no?
She's not a creature, but she is basically in the Eldraine storyline. Kenrith was seduced, poisoned, enchanted by a witch to bear children that would be extremely powerful. And after Bill Cosby'd him, she gave birth to 2 twins, Will and Rowan, who were then, of course, taken by Kenrith because she's an evil witch. They kind of had to reckon with that fact that she's a powerful and selfish warlock, basically. And so him saying that to Rowan, basically saying like, you're going down this evil path with the way you're acting like her. And that was just about it. That was all she needed to know. She just pushes by him, says, leave me alone. You can't tell me what to do. And she's gone. Will, Rowan, they never see each other. Will would wake up in the morning. Sister would already be gone. He would go to sleep. She'd still be out. That kind of thing. They don't see each other until they're watching a Mage Tower game. And all this is happening. Quint's talking about how all these different people, they're doing specific things. There's the Arnold's combustion. It's Silver Quill and Prismari, and they're going up against each other. So it's like a grudge match kind of thing, right?
So Quint and Will are like besties?
Yeah, Quint and Will are pretty good friends.
That's amazing.
It is. It's fantastic. Which makes sense if you think about like their actual like...
I like how they're like the Goku and Vegeta, like Will and Rowan, like the Goku and Vegeta too. There's a method to this.
Yeah, explain yourself, Joe. How is this the Vegeta Goku dynamic between a happy little clumsy elephant boy and
No,
Iceman?
I meant Will and Rowan or Goku and Vegeta.
Oh, I thought you meant Will and Quint.
No.
I was like, that's not even
No, because
close to
Will's
their
like
dynamic.
Goku. He's like surrounding himself with these other significant characters that'll be significant for a bit. And then Rowan's just like with these extras that don't even have cards.
Okay, that makes sense. So the Silver Quill are winning this thing, right?
Uh-huh.
They have their inkling, they're all good, and then all the crowd watches as a Prismari player throws out their hand wreathed in a circle of crimson light. The inkling begins to glow. A halo of red light appears over its shifting black head, and suddenly it leans over and bites the Silver Quill player's hand, who, surprised, drops the inkling, giving the Prismari player a chance to scoop it up and win the match. And Will's like, what just happened? Did he hypnotize it? And Quint explains, no, he took control of it altogether. It's a very simple trick. You see, it only works on a summoned creature, which is why there's all 5 of the colleges have the summon effect to get tokens. So the idea is that a token is summoned, and it's pretty cool. And right as everybody's really excited, Will spots Rowan. And so he's like, you know what? We need to talk about this. We need to approach this issue, and we need to figure out something. At the same time, Rowan spots him, and she's like, got a dip.
Got a blast.
Yeah. Will's like, oh, you're still with your Witherbloom friends. And she's like, yeah, I am. Is that a problem? He goes, no, I'm just thinking maybe you chose the wrong college. And she's like, what is that supposed to mean? Well, clearly you have no interest in really learning. And they're nature mages. It's not like they'd care that you can't control your powers. And obviously, Rowan doesn't like that. Will's actively egging her on. He's asking to get smacked up in the face. She says that she wishes basically that he was dead, without going into too much from the other story. All of this is like they're getting ready. One's got their lightning powers, one's got their ice powers, and they're gonna just duke it out. And Onyx shows up, and she's like, all of you return to your seats. You two, come with me. And they're like, snip.
We got Onyxed.
We're in trouble. We're gonna get bined. I mean, that wouldn't be the worst thing. What was I? So Professor Onyx takes them into basically like the faculty area of the Witherbloom buildings. All the walls are made of like floral stuff and mushrooms and rotting things. And as they're going by all the different places, they eventually get to her office, which has a few candles burning with a purple flame. And she's like, what was that? You guys were literally about to just destroy the area around you. I understand that you guys are brother and sister. You got that little sibling rivalry kind of thing. She goes, but that's not acceptable. You two can't be fighting against yourselves because there's something much, much more dangerous on the horizon. Have you heard of the Oriq? And they're like, oh yeah, they're the people who can pass the entrance exam. They're the ones who flunked out, right? She's like, that's one way you could say it, but underestimating them would be foolish. For all we might think otherwise, Strixhaven doesn't have a monopoly on power in this plane. And so obviously the ever-attentive Will heard her say plane and realized, she's a planeswalker! Oh my gosh! And Rowan's just thinking, yeah, the Oriq must be pretty bad guys. So what are we going to do about it? Or what are the deans going to do about it? And she's like, Onyx is like, nothing. They don't think it's a problem. What would you do about it? And so the last thing that Will and Rowan are thinking about as they leave is that they have to do something. Do they have the responsibility to protect this plane, or should they leave it up to the professors? Obviously, Will's like, gotta help everybody. This is the way. And Rowan's like, forget you. I'm going to go prepare my way. You can read books and you can do your studying. I'm going to practice my lightning jazz, my jazz hand, lightning hands, and we'll get back on, join back up.
And it will get back to you. I still hate you, bye.
We now have an interlude with Kasmina. And Kasmina's sitting there and she's going through her different owls, and she's kind of just going, as she's listening to all the different things happening, she sees Luca and she sees Oriq agents, and she can see that they're doing something. They're setting something up, and her owl is like good where it is, right? Right when she's like trying to listen into what they're doing, there's a fox, Mila, that just shows up and attacks her owl. And she's like, oh no, owl, get out now. Luca's ability is not so much that he gains control of things, which obviously would be red, but more so that he bonds with things. So right in this moment before the fox attacks, she notices that Luca's face elongates a little bit and gets the markings and his ears stretched to look like a fox because he's bonded with her. That's how his effect takes hold. That's how it looks, is he slightly takes on the animal or monster's appearance whenever he does it. There's then a scene where Rowan basically just sees Overeen working with a pest, and she basically just like sucks out some of the pest's soul to use in a potion. And then she's like, here, it's great. You should taste it. And she's talking about sacrifices and seeing like the witchcraft and the bubble and brew kind of thing. Rowan has this like flashback to her mom, and she's thinking about sacrifices and like, well, she was compared to her mother, and she's like considering like, is this like a dark path kind of thing that I'm on, and how am I going to reckon with that, I guess. So Rowan actually finds Will at the biblioplex, because obviously that's where he would be.
Yep.
And so she's like talking to Will, and Will's been trying to find a good spot to like a good spell. Will has been trying to find a good spell that could actually like stop the Oriq, stop them from doing whatever their plan is. He doesn't know quite what it is. He's also trying to figure out what that is, but he just knows the biblioplex will have the answer he's looking for. It has to. There's a spell for everything. He says having these powers is a responsibility, Rowan. That's part of what being here is all about. Otherwise, we would use them for selfish purposes, for dark ones. Think about our mother or Oko. And she goes, yeah, I learned that from when you're not afraid to break the rules, you can't get a whole lot done. So good luck with your books. Because obviously he wound up doing it again. He just wound up doing the same thing again, angering her by trying to talk to her because he does not know how to properly convey what he's trying to convey.
So she went to go reconcile, and he was just like, if you hadn't started this in the first place. And she's like, you know what? Yeah, bye.
Well, that's the thing, is that he's not trying to do anything he's not being arrogant about it. He's just trying to communicate that they need to work on controlling her power, because she's a loaded gun with no safety. And if they intend
but he keeps using her mom as an example, and that's not a good thing to bring up.
Exactly. And so that just kind of throws her like you're comparing me not only to our mom, but now to Oko, the guy who turned our dad into a servine. That happens. She storms off, literally, and then we go back to Kasmina. Kasmina's got her owl. The owl goes and it like lands on the thing and everything, right?
I'd like
And
to think that if this was a show, that we'd see the Will and Rowan thing, and then we just zoom out to like Kasmina watching the owl, and it's like that's how we segue back into Kasmina.
that would be interesting if there was like an owl for everything. That
Yeah.
would be a good way to do it. But right now we have Kasmina, and she sees that there's a figure at the edge of the courtyard,
Figure.
silhouetted by the light of the setting suns. I don't recall there being much mention of multiple suns on Strixhaven, but it says here setting suns, so that's interesting. So she sees Luca and his fox, and she says, "It's a shame to see a man like you fallen so far. What would your unit think of their former leader becoming a pawn in someone else's scheme?" And Luca, of course, is like, "You know what? They wouldn't care, considering half of them are in the ground, the other half want me dead. So, what is it that you and your fake birds? Why have they been watching me?"
Fake birds.
Yeah, well, because they're constructs. They're not fractals, but they've been summoned by Kasmina. That kind of thing. And
They're made of fractals.
and so basically, she's saying, "Look, you don't have to work with the Auric. You can be redeemed." And he's like, "I'm done being told how to live." He goes, "I'm not a pawn. You guys are running the school. You think you're better than everybody else, and the whole world just nods, goes along with it, and I'm going to show them they're wrong." And she's like, "You could be an ally. You could use your gift for the common good. It seems I've overestimated you. You guys need to read this. It's gonna be put on there. It's a test of talents kind of deal." And the two of them just smack into each other. And she's throwing her spells, he's throwing his spells. Fantastic fight. And they're talking the entire time. He's talking about the Dragon's Guard, and she's talking about Extus, and they're like talking about basically philosophy to each other while they're trying to destroy each other. And like he keeps throwing haymakers at her, and she keeps deflecting and stuff like that. He says he does not care about any of the things she's saying. He doesn't even care about Extus and what he plans to do. He just wants to see the current place burned to the ground because he's just so full of rage and
So he's just gone full dismantle the establishment.
Yes. And that's why he's red-white. Because they could never think of a red-white character that could stay red-white and still have some kind of redeeming quality. She took a step forward, her shield forcing Luca back. He swung his blade again and again, trying to force his way through with brute force. But until Kasmina flicked her hand, the light shifted, beams of it shooting out and catching Luca in the stomach. He flew back and landed next to his trapped fox. Before he could get up, Kasmina was there, the point of her staff held just under his chin. Yield. It's over. And of course, Luca snarl laughs at her and says, "No, it's only beginning."
He eats the staff.
The thing is, while she was fighting Luca, she was not keeping track of her owls. She had not been keeping a close eye on the perimeter. She was the first line of defense for the school. Turns out,
Luca was a distraction.
While she was doing that, the mage hunters were breaching the borders, basically. And that's it. She realizes that she basically failed. And so she planes walks away. And I'm thinking, what is
basically
with the blue green?
They can't get mad at me if I wasn't here. Bye, guys.
Yeah. Like, what is the deal with the blue-green characters in this plane and just making terrible decisions when it comes to the enemy? She was winning. She could have, contained him, considering that he's the one who would be controlling the mage hunters.
He's a planeswalker. He's already a bigger threat.
And this is the final thing. Extus goes, "Are you sure you're in control? No Auric has ever tried to control this many at once." And of course, Luca is he's a pro. And then a whole bunch of Auric come out from the woods and to the edge of the courtyard. Extus kind of just nods and goes, "Commence the attack." And that's how the story ends. That's
so cool.
Yeah. This is the assault on Hogwarts, except they're not prepared at all. The people at Strixhaven do not think it's possible for the Auric to get where they're going, to do what they plan on doing. They don't think that the mage hunters are going to be able to attack en masse like they're about to. That's what's up.
That was interesting. That was a lot of characterization too. I loved it though. I hope you guys loved it too. Go ahead and leave a like if you liked it and subscribe for more content. We're just getting into it. You guys can't stay on that cliffhanger. Go ahead and catch us for the next one.